I just had not seen from other teams, the way that they were doing it. And they instantly, I fell in love with the way that they played the game. Yes, they have a few changes, but when they fall back to the more standard style, and that's what you and I were talking about, is like they have a great team fighting, but they also rely on macro. When they diversify and just play a balanced approach, I think that suits them much, much better.
I very much agree with you. And on the macro sense here, on Sky Tempo, that Giant and Knight kind of conundrum that we were talking about with some of the other Korean teams that we've seen play here already today is very much going to come to light, and we'll see whether or not BlossoM can keep it controlled. They're going to start out by ridding of the Tracer. Ballistics takeaway, Mayav. First pick onto the Genji here for BlossoM.
What happened to our boy Lucio, by the way?
I mean, to be honest, he just is way too slow compared to everything else. Like, let's be real here. Let's drop the... every single time. Like, everybody is so mobile, so fast to get that damage out. He's just unreliable to make that happen. Every other, support within this meta is just so quick to make that happen. I mean, Divine Shield, instant, right? And the impact that they have is, I don't want to say equal to Lucio, because I would say equal. He's on a kind of tier of his own, but that's a lot of it. Talking about, some of the supports in the Uther and the incident, Ballistics committing to the double invuln immediately. Once more, I don't think that's going to change. I think that's going to just be a staple throughout this tournament.
Rhaegar, I think, is something that if they want to fall back, Malfurion obviously let through here. Malfurion does do well with Genji the same way that you would with a Tracer, is that you can hit them with a regrowth and they can be pretty much anywhere on the map, and make sure you hit the Moonfire on the heroes, they're going to get heals. So that does fall. The Uther's not there for that huge protection. So I wonder if they might fall back to a different style with that, with the Rhaegar, but if they do that, that would probably fall past second ban.
If you're watching us from NA or Europe, then you may be a little bit shocked by the lack of Twilight Dream play up to this point, but Asian teams, they just love the fact to drag it out a little bit longer, to have a secure addition, basically, to keep all the squishy heroes alive next to Malfurion. And up to this point, with the exception of Nasang having a little bit of a mana mismanagement issue there, I think it always gave them great value, and especially in heroes like Genji or Junkrat, who's traditionally always kind of close to Malfurion in terms of positioning anyways. I think it's such a safe choice.
I agree with you. It is a pretty safe choice. And, yesterday when we're watching Nasang onto the Malfurion, there was oftentimes, concerning about positioning, but I feel like today, for the most part, things have been cleaned up a little bit. Maybe some criticisms here and there. The high Junkrat once again continues throughout this tournament. That's going to provide, not too much when you look into already on the composition of, Ballistics. It's going to deter a couple of offlaners and control the map a little bit, but other than that, and the AoE spread damage into an Uther, I do question whether or not this is going to be maybe a concern for BlossoM as we get past the secondary ban phase.
I'm pretty sure a Blaze would look good here. I mean, Dahaka maybe if you want to go that route. Jongha played a pretty amazing Dahaka last game, landing several key tongues, but the Tyrael Blaze, Uther composition, and then you just kind of hit your double back line. Maybe you can go back into that Hanzo route, something that SC likes to play. Maybe you end up with a Greymane this time around. But no matter what, every piece of that, it does well on its own. It does well compositionally. I think Ballistics, if they want to go that route, would look good, but they opt for a Malthael instead.
So, SDE is going for another one of those Tychus games, trying to continue his flawless streak up to this point. Now, a hero that I want to bring up that could maybe find his way, or the way into the tournament meta here, is maybe the Gul'dan. I think he's so good against Uther. It really confuses and almost surprises me that none of the teams is actually willing to use that spread out damage, to use the Horrifies, most importantly, because Uther, as probably one of the most melee of supports, is usually going to get hit by that. Yeah,
and he is very susceptible to just that spread damage as you were talking about. This is a map that you don't get as much value out of his control, and he is a bit of a later stage character, so I wouldn't be surprised in this draft we see it hold off, but I agree with you. The Gul'dan, or more the lack of, has been a little, interesting through this tournament. Jay-How, you got to face. What is it?
Tychus Malthael. What's the #1 hero that BlossoM loves to run on the front line, that just loves to taunt everybody? Garrosh, right? So you take the Garrosh off the table. They ban the ETC in the second ban slot.
I think we're talking about Varian here, right?
Clearly, we're talking about Varian. But this is the fallback option. Anub'arak is kind of that third tier when it comes to BlossoM on that front line. But the Tychus and Malthael are basically like, go ahead, pick Garrosh. We dare you. And I think that right there is controlling not only the draft, but a little bit of the draft on the side of BlossoM. They fall back to the Anub'arak, which is not bad. If you can get the full dive composition between a Blaze and Anub'arak and a Genji kind of coming in behind that, that does do well. But the amount of protection that comes in from Tyrael and Uther, I think that's probably a bit more significant.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Cocoon is going to get that much value in this game if Ballistics plays it well. Tychus, with his fast attack speed, can actually shred those things really fast.
Yep.
Malthael, the poison damage, if you will, although I'm not sure if Malthael actually spreads poison. And then even if you spend a lot of time with Tyrael and Uther, increasing attack speed at level 7, you can normally pop those Cocoons very fast. So the value of a Noob when it comes to his ability remains a little bit questionable up to this point.
Yeah, again, I think the Tychus Malthael were specifically to counter everything on the front line and targeting that. They end up with the Greymane, a bit of a where has this been for a while pick on the side of Ballistics.
It is interesting. I was wondering if there would be any thought or fear to, again, try and consider the Li Ming, and I was afraid if they were going to go in that direction to try and deal with that, but they decide that the Tychus is enough to deal with the Cocoon. I think that's a safer route there, just because we saw so many defensive, especially with the bunker and that counter momentum on the other side. I was like, if we see this committed, I mean, Malthael's a great setup for resets, but bunker's also a great deterrent to a lot of resets, so I'm glad to see them go avoid that route. I'm surprised, though, to see that if they go into a damage route, to not give too much consideration to Cocoon, but then being a Greymane and squishy in this manner, it does feel like, again, one of those kind of risks that maybe might be a little bit too far and concerning, because now there's a lot of pressure on Hooligan on that Tyrael to be effective with Sancts, which, by the way, last game had some legendary sanctification.
And speaking of pressure, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Gondar as well, who's probably going to play that Noob, because if you think about it, the Worgen attacks, the Odin attacks as well coming in from Tychus, that is a lot of hard-hitting punching power. So if you're in a squishy beetle like a Noob, you're going to have to think twice about when you want to engage and how deep you want to engage.
Well, see how it plays out here. We've got ourselves a series 1-1, and BlossoM had a lot of success in Game 1, not so much in Game 2. This draft definitely looks a lot more, I guess, reserved than the composition we saw between the Zeratul Abathur Tracer last game. We'll see, as Dreadnought alluded to, the play around the Siege Giants and the Knights early game with Greymane. Look at that 1 minute mark. The minute that plays out for them to go through, they're actually looking to get a little bit of early game structure damage here.
Yeah, that was a really good move here by Ballistics. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the tower all together. The rotation from BlossoM was too fast for that, but already that paves the way for future Siege Giant pushes there. So well done, Modern Life, taking a little bit of damage there as well, in a 3-man push coming in from Ballistics.
Zhang gonna go ahead and just kind of casually hop on over Wiz there, applying his Reaper's Mark, allowing him to just jump on over. We're 10 seconds away. Once this middle wave clears, where Ballistic goes from here in terms of their camp priority, look at that, they're instantly rotating out to move directly to that. This is when I said Ballistics a year and a half ago did things that no other team was doing, this is another element, right? They're using Tychus to prep the lane. They're using Greymane and Uther to just go in here. They want to clear this as fast as possible. They have faster clear. They have quicker clear. They prep that lane from the very opening seconds of the game to force a response from BlossoM and gain control.
Now, Jeha, look at that level 1 talent coming in from Greymane. That puts us back a couple of months when the cocktail build was just the go-to build to go for. Now, traditionally a little bit replaced by Viciousness at level 1. So a reason potentially for me to explain this talent choice, and the question is if we're going to see the 7 cocktail as well, is maybe with the number of beetles in the game, there's always going to be one target to trigger the cocktail to allow the cone to hit the damage behind the target. I'm not really sure what to make of this just yet.
Yeah, I think I agree with you when it comes to those beetles, and this is something, because they split Malthael off, they got their Knights first, they have the Greymane, they're getting this early structure damage in. When it comes to the first Temple phase, which comes in at 3 minutes, it's a matter of a lot of teams, since the gameplay changes, get the top wall down. Blizz is locked in here, and he is locked in to the death zone, as that's going to be our first blood, but getting this down just opens up that top temple to get that much more value.
Yeah, that Tychus minigun and the auto attacks were just chipping away the health of Blaze like there was no tomorrow. The body blocks, all that mayhem and confusion going on near the gates was just so cool to see. I mean, Blaze was so close to escaping, but he just couldn't squeeze it in there.
Needs a bunker.
Needs a bunker.
Well, Zhang down here, this will be a lane that he should be able to win pretty easily, and he can rotate up. We do see on a Pale Horse again, so if he elects to stay down here for one more wave and then work his way up, see if they can kind of get the advantages. Now, we've already looked at about a 3/4 level lead SDE, though, that's going to change things.
Yeah, that's absolutely going to change things. 18 seconds with both temples available. Now it is up for Ballistics to basically avoid any more confrontations. They're just trying to hold the top temple. That's already where Uther and Greyman, the Alliance Bros, are assembled. They're trying to keep it up for a little while. And let's see how much aggression BlossoM, on the other hand, is now willing to apply here. Or whether they want to go bottom, maybe, you know, soak it up all the time. Because if you take a look at it, Jay, due to the early game aggression from Ballistics and the mercenary pushing power, it's almost an entire level lead that they've established here.
Yeah, definitely something that they've done, and you know, as you had predicted, do see the cocktail build here at level 7, getting those stacks, and it will be something that SC will try and do throughout this game. With the 7 talent tier advantage, they're going in. See Genji hopping on over the wall. Gondar taking a lot of pressure on the front line. It looks like Ballistics should be able to turn this and take the last few shots of this temple.
Yeah, with Wiz on the Blaze being here in the middle as well, they're basically, or they were committed to making a play. They weren't able to do so, however, so more temple value actually going over to Ballistic, and this is going slowly but surely from bad to worse here. Already such a massive disadvantage for BlossoM. Can they come back after 10 maybe if they have more playmaking moves like the Genji Dragon Blade, like the Riptire from Junkrat 2?
I just want to see what Ballistics does from here on out.
Yeah.
I mean, they set up from the very start of the game an entire strategy, and this is something that if you're not prepared for, you don't know the counters to, it's very hard to adapt on the fly because they have so much rotational advantage with the Uther Tyrael Greymane to supply anything. They have the clear from Tychus. They have so many different elements that can take advantage of any 2-second delay that you have.
Yeah.
And we are looking at a level-and-a-half lead. It has been calculated from the first second. I cannot express how strong this has been for Ballistics to start this game.
You know what? I'm just going a little crazy here, and I think if they maintain this huge lead up to level 10, which was very likely, and Ballistics feeling like it, they could even judge people. I really think that with the amount of aggression they have, with the lack of cleanse, that Malphite, actually he does have the cleanse at level 7, but still, I think they could try to maybe snowball even harder by just making aggressive move after aggressive move. This judgment could maybe help in that regard. Let's see which route they're going to go for. Tyrael's holding up for it up to this point.
It kind of falls into that territory of Sendragosa for Arthas, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly,
look,
exactly.
If it's a highly situational thing, but if you find that situation, I mean, this could be it, right? You get the boss, you push in the bottom lane, and you snowball this boss into an early keep. And
you get staggered deaths, you get one after the other. Exactly.
This is it. I mean, they're holding it for now, and I think that if the opportunity is there, he'll snap lock it and go in.
Nah, not this time.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to judge people, you know, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, so Tyrael's not going to do it this time. Maybe next time. But, I mean, it was basically a situational thing. If BlossoM had decided to contest the boss, they wouldn't really know. And, like, do they go with the Sanctification? Should we play aggressively now or not? It was more of a mind game thing to do. But I totally agree with this decision, of course, as well. Double protection, Divine Shield, Sanctification, really safe overall. They're just going to get that bottom for it. They're probably not going to overextend it too much. So Ballistic falling back into that safe, calm, and collected attitude of just, you know, administering the game. Just trying to get ahead further and further.
See how the Malthael pick plays out. You can see Hooligan backing off this. No need to risk it. Level 10 picked up by BlossoM, but we do see Tormented Souls. Last strikes can be negated by the bunker, which is on a 40-second cooldown, and not getting those kills, you know, it feels bad when you don't get them. So I think, you know, it makes sense. But then Tranquility on the other side, it's kind of the counter, right? So if you can kind of win one over the other, Tormented Souls, I think, is naturally going to be considered winning on that trade because you can find other ways to follow it. But if you can neutralize that on either end, yeah, they just kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah, I mean, Tormented Souls is actually a very interesting one, as you brought up. I wonder how much value we're going to see from that Horde ability. Maybe it's also good against the Cocoon, just in case Tychus is the one who lands in it. The AoE circle around Malthael is going to make sure to shred that Cocoon a little bit faster. But as you also said, Jay, how these Tranquility is a nice counter to it. It's like a soft sound barrier, if you will. It doesn't give much burst protection, but it heals up the lost health gradually.
It has to heal up everybody, and the Heroic on the side of Malthael heals up one person, but it does some damage. We'll see how it plays out. Level 13, not quite here, so if Ballistics defends this, I'd be a bit surprised. I think this is one of those ones that you give up. The next temple phase is a double temple phase. You just kind of casually play around that, and at this point in the game, if you're Ballistics, you can trade out for the rest of the game. You have 3 forts standing. You've already taken out the entire front.
Look at the top lane, too.
Yeah.
There's a mercenary camp, a knight camp already marching through, and they're definitely going to have to send one person to deal with it, ideally Blaze here, BlossoM that is. So Wiz is already on the move here, already trying to keep that in check, but Ballistics with that level 13, they know exactly what they're trying to do. They could even go for an aggressive steal. The Holy Ground is available as well, just in case BlossoM is trying to defend it.
Yes, it's 13 talent to your advantage, but this might be one of those rare situations where this is the best time for Ballistics to take a fight, because they're not going to have a lot of opportunities from here on out. Ballistics will make sure of that. The next temple phase active here in about 30 seconds, and again, all Ballistics has to do at this point, Kendrick, is just trade out, and they will naturally win the game just based on temples alone. Yeah,
Ballistics just gonna try to, you know, dance around it a little bit, ring around the Rosie. They're just trying to just kite BlossoM around all the time. The other Night Camp that they just stole away from their opponents is causing so much distraction as well. Junkrat actually spending way longer than he should be when it comes to dealing with the Knights, and even that Mercenary Camp is not a guaranteed one. Look at Hooligan, always trying to make sure, you know what guys, I have a sword called Eldruin and I can steal that away from you.
Indeed he can. Every second that they use, you can see Hooligan shielding those Siege Giants. It buys time. And every second that they bought allowed for an extra shot or two on those temples. We see BlossoM moving to the bottom. They're going to come down and they're going to take a few of those, but not before Ballistics took a few shots out of that. Greymane has been here the whole time as SC holding onto this temple. And this is just a way for Ballistics to gain every ounce of control. Every second that they get just is so impactful, so momentous.
Absolutely, and what's so impressive as well by Ballistics and the way how they rotate around the map is that they're never getting caught isolatedly. There's no way that Gondor on that Nubrak can actually trap someone in the cocoon, wait until it expires, and then they blow that target up together, because there's always that saving grace nearby. They're never really spreading out too far from one another. So Ballistics, not just in the way of how they prioritize targets and how patiently they play, also the way they form the rotations is so cool to see.
Speaking of rotations, BlossoM, they have to be aggressive in their rotations, because if they give up 16 for Ballistics, they'll continue to just play around the temples. Good thing for BlossoM, the next temple phase is going to be a single temple phase. That's going to be their best chance. We can also see at the bottom left, the boss 18 seconds away. If you're Ballistics, you can give up things like that. You don't have to do much. As long as Ballistics plays around the talent tier advantage, there's just almost nothing that they have to do. The onus of winning this is on BlossoM, and it requires so many steps. Ballistics, they can just kind of keep it cool for a while. Play 16. Rome is fine. They're fine here.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. The boss is actually a point of contention that I want to see Ballistics start now with the Holy Ground and its sanctification. The double protection, actually, if Uther falls on top of that as well, is so huge that BlossoM, although they need to make a move, although they need to pounce on their opponents, they're not going to feel comfortable doing so in this case.
I actually think that BlossoM needs to force it. I don't know if now, of course, obviously 16 is fastly approaching, but if they do want to force something, they should be able to get 16. Again, single temple phase, he's literally chilling.
He's a stealthy ninja. He's currently teleporting back.
Can you blame him? It's like, look, the rest of you guys kind of split out. Like, you guys left the party a while ago. I lost my ride home. Guys?
Here we go. Now 16 is here, and although BlossoM was trying to maybe make something happen, they just weren't brave enough. They didn't have the confidence. And I think this might be their last ticket to win City. If they let those two temples go through and maybe even have to surrender the boss, it might be lights out for them.
Look at that sick hero damage here. 8,800 hero damage by Tychus.
Feels Sky Temple, man.
It feels Sky Temple, but I'm telling you, this is why I fell in love with Ballistics a year and a half ago, because their strategy was calculated. This is why they are so strong on Sky Temple, and they have done so much. But this is the opportunity for BlossoM. They've gotten 16. It is a single temple phase. Again, if you're Ballistics, you do not have to take a fight, Kendrick. You can literally take half of this temple, walk away, and consider it a victory.
And go for the other one. Toplin once again getting pressured. Those Night Camps are so well timed. SC is in trouble though. Gets the shields, gets the heals. Here comes the Riptire.
The Riptire's out. Jong Hall dodges it, and he's got his Tormented Souls out. The Sanctification, or excuse me, the Divine Shield is there, but the big stun coming back by Wiz, and all of a sudden Tychus is down, and we have Genji going into the backside, shredding the backside of Ballistics, and all of a sudden BlossoM has turned this game around, Kendrick.
Yeah, they definitely turned that team fight around. They got a kill here on the Tychus, who was once again a little bit too far away from the saving tools by Tyrael and by Uther. The Odin, of course, locks you in place for a little while, but as you said, they can actually afford to give up this temple. The top lane getting damaged more and more. It gets another tower. Every structure at this point matters for BlossoM.
I will say, Ballistics easily could have walked away from that team fight and still had such a major advantage. Now, yes, they got a little bit of structure advantage on the top. They gave up the remaining part of that temple and still have fort standing. But BlossoM can easily make a play towards a boss or something along those lines. Instead, they're waiting it out, seeing if they can find somebody in rotation. And Hooligan says, nah, I see you.
Hooligan knows exactly how to play that. He's not blindly walking in that brush. He's checking it very carefully with that smite as well. And BlossoM, on the other hand, you may have expected them to maybe go all in on that boss, right? Because they just killed Tychus. There were still 30 seconds on the clock. But instead, they tried to actually catch someone off guard, maybe, because they realized if we start this boss now, all it takes is one Q from Hooligan. And that could actually turn things around against us. So they were trying to go for more kills, didn't get them, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know, they're trying to go for more kills, but I think they have to consider the fact that now we're looking at double temple phase, top-bottom. The bottom is generally going to be the most favored because it has the boss. And you can see Hooligan actually going in there trying to steal that, but he's going to be rooted in there. He's stunned for the moment, Kendrick.
Yeah, a little bit too early there. The timing wasn't correct here. In the meantime, we see a Nubrak Gondor dropping very low, but the bunker dance is real. The Rift Tower zoning and splitting the team of Ballistics, and here comes a big sacrification from Hooligan. Can he stay sort of alive? Can he stay and keep Magi alive? That is the question. Here goes the first kill. Raymond is tearing it up.
He's tearing it up, and you can see Nasang is split way far out to the right. SC is going to get the kill there. 2 members down on the side of BlossoM, and now with 2 members down, the temple's available soon and the boss up. This is Ballistics' time to make a major power play, start their, I guess, final approach here to victory as they put themselves firmly ahead. And this is desperation. BlossoM might try and find a way to contest this, but I just don't see it happen.
This is close to a KO already. BlossoM is desperate. They're trying to make it work somehow. Gondor is still here. He is not brave enough to go in, though. Instead, he turns around, almost gets caught there as well. Concussion Mine keeps Hooligan at bay up to this point. Gondor taking those mighty working hits as well. So much health is missing on both Anubrak and the Genji. And now this is the picture-perfect scenario for Ballistics. How do you want to win this game? Do we go with the boss and maybe seal the deal there? Do we take a chunk of bot? Do we go for a little bit of top temple? At this point, it's so hard for the Ballistics to actually not win this.
If there was a
like a buffet, you know?
If there was a probability factor, it would probably be somewhere in like 95%, right? You'd have to make a major slip up because right now with these temples active, the boss still being defended, you're looking at double keep play, and you still have a fort standing. At that point, you literally are. It's a free victory at this point.
Yeah.
BlossoM's opportunities.
20s there, icing on the cake.
It's almost BlossoM has a chance, but it is minuscule.
Yeah, they need to have picture-perfect team fighting at this point. They need to defend the core, which is not an easy thing to do. They need to regroup as fast as they can. Dudu is already in a little bit of trouble here, tries to keep all the attackers at bay.
They're taking core damage.
Yeah, they're taking core damage.
They're split.
It's also the worst possible location there as well. It's so far spread out. It's so hard for BlossoM to really do this. 24%. Here comes a last effort for Zhangha trying to really seal the deal. But 2 BlossoM heroes against him. Gondor, Greymane on the core. 6%. Don't be a tease, SCST. He waits for SDE like a patient dog he would for his master. Well played, Ballistics, taking the game 2-1.
Very rarely do you like to call a game over sometimes in Heroes because there are so many comebacks and it leads to a 6.5 out of 10. But I honestly believe that what we just saw from there, outside of the team fight that I don't feel Ballistics needed to take, but what we saw there in terms of an opening strategy through the first 6-7 minutes of the game that opened up that map so heavily is exactly Ballistics' MO, and it's one of the reasons why I think that Dread and I, we looked at them as, in terms of favorites, they have some of these macro strategies that are just kind of unrivaled in a lot of the global scene of Heroes.
Yeah, the only thing hinging on, not having confidence, for me at least, right, into Ballistics is always going to be that hero pool, and I'm still, it's still sadly a big question mark for me here in day number 2, but we have gotten, couple of signs or symptoms, if you will, you know, with, again, the game #1 on Dragon Chai here being displayed against Ballistics. And then other than that, they are doing what they do best, really. They are a team that we know to be able to get those kind of early leads, especially on maps like Sky. Historically, their macro and rotations, the pressure out is just insane. And they displayed it well there against BlossoM. I agree with you. That one fight was like, do you have to? At the same time, you go, you're so far ahead, as long as you don't full wipe, like you should be good. So well done. I feel like they're from Ballistics, and it makes it hard to, you know, see as their turning point in the next game for BlossoM.
I think this was one of those games where, as a viewer, you're watching this and you're watching Ballistics absolutely dismantle BlossoM. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna call a bunch of friends here. We're joined up for a team league, and we're gonna do the exact same. It's so easy, right? But it isn't. The way they just managed to stay together all the time, not getting caught, the way they kept the backline safe once again, the way they just patiently took mercenary camps at the right moment, at the right time, was just so admirable. And I think they really deserve this victory. Picture perfect masterclass on SkyTel.
It's one of those games you just kind of want to watch. You want to kind of teach everybody. On paper, it looks very simple, but the timing of everything that they do, it is what really makes it stand apart. So that's a game that's in the books. Will move forward, obviously, but Ballistics, after that first hiccup in game #1, seems to be picking up some steam as they've gone back to their comfort picks in the draft, and you got to wonder, will those continue to be there, Dread?
We're going to have to find out. I feel like the first place we're going to see if it's, you know, it's pressured off of those comfortable heroes for SC is going to be where we start with Battleground. So we're going to find out where we're going for game #4 first, and then we'll figure out, you know, if BlossoM